29 of TGP1. Give himself the best possible start to the season with Softy on the podium, and then Jonas winding up in third place. Moving on then to round 2 at Barcelona, which left Owen with a surprise. Oh, not Owen, sorry. We had Jonas with a surprise pole position. Owen was very much up at the sharp end, and it was Jonas, after a fantastic defensive performance, who held his own and won around the fan. It was a very close fight. Because of 2 strong championship hopefuls in Jake at the beginning of the stint, and then right at the end of the race had to put up with Jamie climbing all over the back end of his Renault. If we have a quick run down of the standings, then it is Jonas who came off best after the first 2 weeks with a fantastic third place, as said, in Monza, and then the first in Barcelona. Odems will want to close the gap and put a lot of pressure, continue anyway, on John Luke. So they're only 5 points back at the moment, with Jonas on 40 and Odems on 35. Phil, 2 strong performances from him, with a third place in Barcelona and a 4th in Monza, sees him third in the championship at the moment, with Jamie after that very strong second place, sitting just 3 points behind Phil in 4th. Martin, 2 very solid performances from him, sees him 5th in the standings. Softy, after crashing out on lap 1 in Barcelona, will want to bounce back strong here, currently sat in 6th. Owen, after 2 relatively decent performances, lies in 7th, and Paul in the Ferrari is in 8th. A few notable mentions outside of the top 8. James, obviously 6-time TGP1 world champion, sits in 12th. Reigning champion Jake down there in 15th, only on 5 points so far. We'll want to have a very much cleaner week this week. We have Dan in 17th. No points scored for Dan so far, and he hasn't been able to turn up to race 1 tonight either. And the other notable mention is Alex Coates at the bottom of the standings, with also no points. So Brazil has always given us some interesting races over the times we've been here, and the previous winners, well, Softy's won here once. Will, everyone remembers Ace of Pace, winning here back to back. Then Jake won 3 seasons ago. James in his championship season, and then last season it was Paul McGuinness, who Paul is going to be chasing his 20th career pole this afternoon in qualifying. Pole time last season was a 109.4. We're not going to get anywhere near that today. Well, at the moment we're about 10 seconds off that, and as we head into the last 2 minutes of qualifying, let's see what it has in offer. So Haas of Odems at the moment sitting 4 tenths clear of anyone else at the top of the timesheets. Jonas it currently sits in 2nd. He did well in the wet qualifying last week, of course, as we said, getting pole position, so he's going to fancy his chances in the second run that we're going to be going on to. Paul, as we said, chasing his 20th career pole. At the moment sits in 3rd, but some 6.5 tenths off the pace. Martin in 4th, and we've got James right where he should be, in 5th. Matt in 6th, who is joining us this week after missing week 1, unfortunately, in the Renault. He's going to be wanting to prop up Jonas's points from week 1 very nicely. Silent Assassin in 7th. Phil Barge in 8th. We've got a yellow flag out there for Dom Smith, who's just popped it in the wall. Chiapelli in the Sauber, good week for him last week, is currently in 10th. So that's your top 10. Martin's called it a day in 4th. He's going to be going no quicker. As we head then into the last minute, let's see if anyone's going to improve. It's going to be a race to the line, see how many laps people are going to get in. So let's see if anyone's on a flyer at the moment. We're following Plagger at the moment. Oh. Right-hander. This is going to be his last lap of qualifying with just 15 seconds to go, and the Dutchman is going to want to improve on his P5 so far. He was disappointed with week 1, would have liked to have been challenging a little bit closer, but he's down at the moment on his personal best. This isn't good enough, and isn't going to be seeing him climb up the timesheets at the moment. It depends how good a run he got out the last corner then, but Plagger is going to be coming up to the line any second now. Is he going to improve? No, he doesn't. So that's that then for the Dutchman. Let's watch Paul now, as we said, chasing his 20th pole position. He climbs. Oh, DRS has been enabled now, so the track's getting drier, so I don't think anyone is going to improve. Paul up to the line. He's going to be struggling for grip, trying to fight, and he pits. That's it. Paul's going to be third at best. And I honestly don't think we're going to see any better times. There are people still trying. We've got Silent Assassin goes third. Wow, just as I was saying, I eat my own words. The McLaren pops himself in third. Great performance from him. We've got Chiapelli finishing no better than 10th. Jack's going to be no... And Softcop on the super... Wow! Gamble, but has paid off. Softy climbs from 12th to 13th. Matt's popped up in third right at the end as well there, beating his teammate Jonas, who is on a lap at the moment, also on the inters. Is Jonas going to improve on his position? He's got a car in the way up to the line, but it doesn't go any better than fourth. And that is that by the skin of his teeth in the end. It was looking like it was going to be comfortable, but Odems has his second pole position in TGP1 and is going to be joined by the equally impressive Softcop, who gambled on the conditions getting better at the end. They did, and it's paid off for the Toro Rosso driver, who's going to be on the front row. And we all know how crucial it is to get into turn one in first position round here. So Matt,
someone is bashing their mic all over the place. Please stop.
Sorry?
Did you not hear that? Someone's mic, not you, Mike.
Oh, yeah,
someone's mic is being bashed all over the place.
Whose is?
I don't know. Just whoever's muting and unmuting their mic and bashing it around.
So yeah, Softy joining
on the front row.
Matt is in third and making it an all Renault second row, which is a good result for him, as we said in his first week. He's
one after unfortunately missing last week. Jonas, championship leader in fourth. He's going to want to make up some ground as soon as possible. Silent Assassin, a great performance from the McLaren driver, coming home in fifth. Paul McGuinness in sixth place, I've got to say. It's an alright performance, but he'll definitely want to try and secure his 20th pole in Mexico. Martin thought he'd done enough to stay fourth, but as people got quicker at the end, dropped down to seventh. Paga couldn't improve in his last run, and that was crucial in the end. He's in eighth. Then we've got James. He's coming home in ninth. Starting in the top 10 is crucial for the six-time champion. And
top 10 there. He'll be disappointed with 10th.
Sauber coming home 11th. Jack will be very disappointed with 12th, considering the fact that his teammate is starting on the front row. Defending champion Jake didn't seem to get a run in at the end and is going to be 13th. Ritson is going to be 14th in the Force India, so the two Force Indias way down there in row 7, and Dom Smith propping up the field in 15th. So we now await the drivers to get comfortable, get ready. It's always very nervy moments. They don't want to end their race on lap 1, but they don't want to get a bad start, so it's pretty much over anyway. Skip. And as predicted, it is overcast here in Interlagos. As we all convene here now for round 3, as said, this is where the season will start to get a little bit of an indication of who's going to be up there for the rest of the season and who maybe needs to improve as we head to Mexico next time round. The cars, as unfortunately Ritson has left us just before the start. That's a shame. Hopefully we'll be able to get back sooner rather than later. But we've got 2. We have 3, 4 and 5 lights for round 3 of TGP1. And we're underway. It's a good start from the front 2. They're going to want to be up there as soon as possible. It's a great start for Softy. Is he going to have a look at the inside of Odems? Yes, he is. Odems closes the door. And it's all straight away. Matt. Is that Matt? I think it's Matt up there into second. Straight away. Softy's dropped back to 4th already. But it's a dream start for Odems. Matt's going to want to try and get past the Haas driver into turn 4, is he? He's having a little look. Odems has to go defensive. And there's a bit of debris in the background, but I think the top 2 have got around. Scott 3, great start for Silent Assassin, straight up to 3rd. Softcop is dropping back, and after a great qualifying performance from him, he's going to want to get back there as soon as possible. Further down the field, we've had Connors also drop a place. Not the dream start he would have wanted. James is down to 11th. Not ideal for him neither. And Pagger's up to 7th. Martin's dropped down to 8th. And there's all a little bit close in the midfield as we come towards the end of lap 1. We've got a Ferrari trying to move up the inside of the Renault there. That's not going to work. The Red Bull getting a little bit feisty as well with a Sauber. Is it Luca trying to move his way up ahead of Phil Bardwell? And he is not made them. We've got a Sauber off and it's in the wall with Luca. Oh,
thank you, Phil. Thank you.
And Luca's race, unfortunately, has not made it past 1 minute. Disaster for the Italian, who did so well last week.
Fucking hell.
Odems has set the fastest lap, not really a surprise. As he extends his lead, we've got Paul having a look around the outside of Softy. It's not been the sort of start that the man from Nottingham would have wanted. But we hope, obviously, Luca's okay. He seems to have got out of the car all right. Softy's going very defensive immediately. Paul's trying to get past as soon as possible. Jonas is having a little look as well. And at the moment, they're as they were. Pagger's trying to have a look around the outside of Jonas. That's not going to work very well. And Martin is having to have bide his time for the moment, at least. And out the front, we've still got Odems leading Matt by 6/10 of a second. Silent Assassin is just a further second behind those. They're going to want to keep as close to them as soon as possible. There's definitely a gap forming now between 3rd and 4th. I imagine that Softy would have had to have started on the tyres. He did his best lap on, so he's going to have a little bit more wear than everyone else. And we got Jonas nearly binning it and slotting in quite neatly just behind Martin in the end. That was been a nervous moment for him, but he's lost ground and lost time to where he needs to be. Looking further ahead, Paul has surely got to have a go at the Toro Rosso drop this time. Odems is saying fastest lap after fastest lap. Softy's going defensive, but there is a gap for Paul at the moment. Is he going to try into turn 1? Not quite. Softy is really struggling. You saw how wide he went. Martin's doing his best to hang on the back, and Phil's trying to make as much progress as he can as well. Jake somehow has dropped 20 seconds off the back of Dom Smith, so I don't know what's happened there. Softy and Paul going side by side. Up the inside, the Scotsman. Can he get past the man from Nottingham now? The two-time champion, not quite. They're still side by side as we go through this tricky turn 5. Up to turn 6, Softy's going to have the inside line and keeps 4th place. Paul's going to have to try a little bit harder than that to outwit the man from Nottingham. He breaks a bit late there and nearly takes half his front wing off. But there is definitely a gap now forming between 4th and 3rd. And this little cluster of drivers we've ended up with now are almost going to have to start waving goodbye to a podium, which is awful news for the likes of Jonas, Phil and Softcop. As we come now to the end of lap 3, Odems is no way getting away from Matt and Silent Assassin. All of them will have DRS, as Paul is pretty much pushing Softy up the hill. Softy's going to need all the power he can have with Paul with DRS over the line, and Paul was just ahead as they crossed it, but Softy's going to hold it up the inside. Is he? Yes, he is. Martin's having a little look as well and might have lost some of his front wing, but I think he's got away with it, and he nearly spins, and Jonas has to go around and off the track to get past the Mercedes. Softy immediately going defensive. He really wants to keep this 4th place, but Paul with the DRS surely into turn 4 will do it. No, he can't, and they still have this bottleneck behind Softy. God, we always thought that Brazil was quite an easy track to overtake, but not at the moment. Dear me. We all know that Paul's going to be getting quite frustrated in the cockpit. I imagine he will be turning almost as red as his car and will want to get past the Toro Rosso as soon as possible, but we have a serious bottleneck going on here, and no one is being given an inch. It's just the way we like it in TGP1. So, climbing up the hill again. Paul almost changing gear for Softy. And he's going to have DRS. Softy runs a little bit wide. And over to the line they come. It's Softy's leaving no room. Gee, that was close. But Paul, I think he's still got his front wing intact, which is good news to hear. But Softy really wasn't, or was really pushing the limits for defensive driving there. But so far, at least, has got away with it. And now Jonas is going to be quite interested in getting past Paul. He wants to have a run at Softy at least. And Paul doesn't try into turn 4. Softy was trying to have a little look around the outside, and that wasn't going to work. Turn 4, you've got to really commit to be able to make that work. And he's going to have a little sniff up the inside of Paul going into the tricky turn. And interestingly, something I hadn't noticed, Jonas is on the soft compound tyres. So that's going to be very crucial going forward. The only other drivers at the moment, we've got Pagger's past Martin, has he? Round the outside, going into the tricky left, right-hander. Martin runs him out of road. You're allowed to do that. And Pagger's now going to run Phil out of road. So the scrap continues. And as I was saying, the only drivers at the moment on the soft tyres, Johners, Phil, James and Jack. With Jake on the mediums, often making that mysterious pit stop that we didn't see. Surely this time for Paul, although dropping a little bit further back, it's going to have to make a move into softy to turn 4 sooner rather than later, because the time that he's losing is huge. Martin, we saw in the background then, making a great move up the inside of the other Ferrari to claim back 7th place. That's going to get a little bit tasty as we go down the straight towards turn 4. Let's keep our attention on that for the moment. Pagger, is he going to have a look at the inside? Both of DRS, he is. And pulls off a fantastic move up the inside of Martin, but runs wide. Oh, and he lost the place to Martin, and Phil's going to get through, surely. And we got a car from the background. That was Jack Pearson. Pagger's holding his own at the inside of Phil. He's going to run Phil out of road, and Phil's going to try immediately on the inside, but not close enough there. You have to be well alongside the driver going into that turn to be able to make a confident move. And worryingly for Paul and Johners, Softy is, I wouldn't say he's pulling away, but he's gapped them a little bit now. So they're going to have to keep an eye on that. And someone's aheading me.
12th and 13th.
12th and 13th. Let's have a look. Oh, Jake Davies all over the back of Dom Smith. 2 completely different car compounds. And Jake will surely breathe past Dom Smith. We've got 2 people in the pits. We've got Softcop and Martin in the pits. And Martin has overshot the pit lane limiter. Come on, son. Sort that out. TGP2 champion.
Assassin's all over Matt for second.
Jack Pearson's got a 3-second penalty for corner cuts. That's pretty poor. John is all over the back of Paul. These two getting very frustrated. And as said, now is going to help these two.
Oh, take up the inside. What a move!
And Jake has got Dom Smith. I just caught the end of it. We heard Dom reacting over team radio, applauding his fellow driver. Dom's going to get DRS. He's going to be able to have a look up the inside into turn 4. Jake
Matt spun out of second. Matt spun out of second.
Matt has spun out of second. Oh, disaster for the Renault driver.
Final corner.
At the final corner where Luca also ended his race. Matt hasn't ended his race, but Odems is in the pits. So is Silent Assassin. And so is Matt. The top 3 pitting. Are we going to see Paul follow suit? Yes, we are. Now watch Paul for where he comes out in relation to Softcop. Have we got anyone else quite keen to make a move? Paggers, of course, had to stay out due to his teammate pitting and isn't close to John enough. Close enough to Johners even. Jack Pearson with his penalty moves up into 5th. So now let's watch where these 4 come out. Paul then goes onto the soft tyres. Where's he going to come out in relation to Softy, who's just coming up to the start-finish line now? Paul is just coming to the end of the pit lane. It's going to be close. And Softy has maintained his lead. I'll tell you what, he's going to be quite close to Silent Assassin, who somehow, I imagine he had to change some, he had some damage and had to change some parts because he's dropped back behind Matt. And Matt, after his spin, has somehow come out ahead of Silent Assassin. And Softy is very close with, well, I wouldn't say very close, he's just close to these. And I tell you what, Martin has also jumped Paul in these stops, so really bad in lap for Paul. And the undercut has worked a treat for these two. Of course, Martin with his 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, it's only going to be short-lived. But another roadblock is just what Paul didn't need. We've got Pagger now coming into the pit. Let's see where he's going to come out in relation to the drivers he's fighting with. I think he might come out behind most of them.
Are you sure we can't red flag this?
John is calling for a red flag.
I joke. I do joke.
A spectator on the track or something. There must be something.
Just look at the position.
Anyway, Pagger coming towards the end of the pits now. Softy's definitely going to go through.
It's going to go here.
But is Martin. And he might even jump his teammate. Paul's had an awful outlap and an awful in lap, and he could have lost the position to his teammate. He has.
Front wing damage for Softy.
Dom Smith's got a 5-second stop and go for speeding in the pit lane. Oh, bloody hell.
Oh, come on, Dom.
God, these league managers, eh? So now we're going to see a little feisty, fiery battle between the two Ferraris. Arriva Bene, apparently, according to one source, was pretty pissed off last week because apparently Paga didn't let Paul through. That is yet to be confirmed and probably complete bullshit. But they rekindled their love for this week here in Brazil. And they've even got a little Mercedes involved, which is quite cute. Odem sets the fastest lap on the soft tyres. His first real lap out the pits. That just shows the pace he's got. Now a 6-second advantage over his closest rival. Paga with DRS on Martin. Might not be able to make a move into turn 1, but will surely look at one into turn 4. Maybe he's just lining him up with Martin over a second off of Softy. He's going to have to watch that. And Paul still right in the slipstream. Paga is going to wait to pick up any slips. And Jack Pearson has somehow dropped hugely back and is now holding up the net race leader. So I'm sure that Odem's not going to be very happy with that. The Irishman is going to want to get past him as soon as possible. He's got a very healthy lead. Oh, he nearly loses half his front wing there. And Jack Pearson isn't playing ball, trying to help his teammate clearly. Although I don't really know why. Softy at the moment isn't battling for the lead. Jack is really struggling on those tyres. And surely this is going to be easy picking to John's pits. And Phil comes into the pits. So let's see where these two are going to rejoin. James is the only one to stay out. Jack Pearson's also pitted.
And he's got a
5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Second man to do that. Third man even. So John is going on to the super soft tyres. Where is Softcop? He's just coming out to the line now. Paga's having a move on the inside of Martin. I can't get the right camera angle. And there's contact. Martin's out. I did not see that because the camera would not shift correctly. But somehow the Mercedes driver has lost his front left wheel. And that is game over.
Yeah, squeezing up to the pit wall.
And we can get some live reaction now. Martin, what happened? Thank you, Martin. So now we're going to go back to Paul, who, from all of this, somehow is still ahead of Jean-Luc Taylor. With Jean on the faster tyres, it's surely not going to be behind him for very long. And Paul would have just watched the incident with him and his teammate and Martin there, and he's going to fancy a little bit of that, but not as much as John is fancying a little bit of Paul at the moment. And
steady on.
Into the last corner at least. John isn't going to try one there, and going up the hill, he's almost got him already before the DRS even kicks in. Round the outside, Jean-Luc Taylor, 2 tread apart girls. He hasn't got him by the time he hit the line, but he has got him into turn 1.
Oh, it's
Paul's
close.
trying to hold his own. We've got James coming out the pits in the background, but Jonas has done the move on the Scotsman. And we can see just the difference in tyre life. A little bit of understeer there for Paul, but he's on the DRS. He's having a look up the outside now of John into turn 4. Is this going to be switched around the order again? Not quite. Is Paul now just going to tuck in to the slipstream of the current championship leader and follow him up to his teammate? I think that's going to be the wisest decision for the meantime. And the closest banter we have on track at the moment is James and Phil at the moment, of all things. So these two on the super soft tyres now. I'm going to fancy a bit of Paul McGuinness himself. Paul, you're a popular man today. And these two, I think, are going to be all over the back of the Ferrari driver soon. And Jonas is already under a second to Paga. The Dutchman is going to have to be watching his mirrors in a second, as he's going to have a feisty man from Harlow filling most of his mirrors in not too distant. Although he just dropped. He somehow got the DRS despite dropping just over a second as they crossed the DRS zone. Jonas half a second up on his personal best after that lap. And is going to want to catch the Ferrari driver sooner rather than later. We've got a yellow flag in sector 1 as Jack Pearson's retired. He's binned it going into turn 1. I don't know if he's just outbraked himself and just carried straight on through. But the Toro Rosso driver, who's going to want his fortunes to change sooner rather than later, finds himself in the wall at turn 1. And that's not good news for the Red Bull Junior driver. But now we've got Paga, interestingly, all over the back of Softcop. He's managed to close the gap. Softy, of course, his tyres are 2 laps older than Paga's. And while we thought that Jonas was going to be the next man all over the back of him, it's actually Paga. And further back, Phil Bardwell and James have rightly caught up to Paul. So one Ferrari's on the attack, one's very much on the defence. And Phil Bardwell, well down the order at the moment, is going to want to pass him as soon as possible. Going up the hill now, we have to switch between the two cameras. Paga's not close enough to Softy, but I tell you, Phil is close enough to Paul. And before we get to the start-finish line, Phil has already got past him as James sets a fast lap race. He can have a look at Paul as well, but not quite close enough. Paul is going to have to late on the brakes and has to avoid Phil, and that's going to put him really under pressure from James on the quicker tyres. Paul's going to have the DRS on Phil, but I think it's not close enough. Phil immediately goes defensive. Phil's weaving on the track. You can't do that, son. Sort it out. But Paul is not close enough, and James is going to keep trying to on the outside. Paul pushes him wide, but James with the grip is going to keep on. And are we going to see him move into turn 6? Not quite. As that dies down a little bit now, and we've got Paga just 3/10 of a second off the back of Softy, and this is bringing Jonas very nicely into this battle for 4th. We'll keep switching between these two battles over the last 5 laps, with Odems, just like he did in Monza, streaking clear 6 seconds ahead of Matt, who in the first stint looked like he was going to give him a bit of a challenge, and Silent Assassin at a further 1.5 seconds back in his McLaren. As we go up the hill again, we've got Paga all over the back of Softy. We've got James side by side with Paul already as they're going up the hill. And surely we'll have him, but now our attention switched back to Paga, who's in the slipstream of the Toro Rosso driver. He's going to try and find a gap up the inside. There's not one there. And he's going to try around the outside, is he? And there's a little bit of wheel rubbing, but somehow they're still both pointing in the right direction. Up to the second DRS, and now Softy immediately goes defensive. Paga has to pull out the slipstream. Jonas is going to get interested. He's going to have a look at the inside. Not quite yet, but Paga's going to try and hold his own around the outside. Softy pushes him wide. He's still there. Watch out, boys. Let's not end in tears. Paga's going to be at the inside into turn 6, but it's not quite close enough. And Softy chops him off before he gets a chance, but he's going to have a little look, but not quite yet. As in the background, we did see James get past Paul. But at the moment, this is where the real action is, and Phil's going to want to get involved in this as soon as possible. What I think the most astonishing thing about this is John is on the newer tyres, and he didn't close up to Paga as quick as I thought he would. And it's actually been Paga that's helping him join the battle for 4th. As we watch again them going up the hill, is Softy going to immediately go defensive again? He's going to have to. Paga with the DRS, he's going to have to switch to the outside sooner rather than later, rather than hope for a gap to go on the inside. John is also with the DRS in the background. Paga's going to hope for the best round the outside. He breaks a lot later. He goes round the outside of the Toro Rosso driver. What a move! But with DRS, Softy's going to be straight back at it. Jonas is climbing all over the curb. Paga immediately defends the inside, just like Softy does. Jonas has to admit defeat for the time being. Softy's going to try and hold it around the outside. There's a little bit of contact between the Ferrari and the Toro Rosso. And Paga looks like he's done it, but they're going to be almost 3 wide. Going to turn 6. Softy holds it and he's spun. That was his own fault. He shouldn't have kept his nose there, and he's only got himself to blame. If he'd done what Paga did in the last lap, he would have been 5th, not 9th. Softy, that's my advice for you. As he spins again, you're an idiot. All right? Not happy. I'm not happy, Softy. I'm not going to lie. We go back now still to the fight for 4th, and Phil is very much involved now, and he would have been watching with bated breath that all 3 of them would have spun, but he wasn't quite that lucky. He's just lost Softy instead. And Jonas on the DRS, and Paga immediately goes into defensive as Phil nearly gets his nose chopped off from Jonas. We've got 2 of the top 3 in the standings at the moment fighting, and Phil runs wide into Jonas.
Paga's driving is poor.
And at the moment, we've got Jonas clouding the radio saying that Paga's in the wrong, but I haven't seen him do anything wrong yet. I don't know, is Jonas in the same race I'm watching? We'll find out afterwards, I'm sure, but I don't see what Paga's done wrong yet so far. But meanwhile, with a lap and a half to go, the fight for 2nd could get juicy in a couple of laps. Only 9 tenths in that, but we're going to continue watching the battle for 4th as we near the close of another lap. And Jonas has nearly lost it and might lose 6th to James. James round the outside of the final corner. What a move that would have been if he pulls that off going up the hill. As he, not quite, they're still wheel to wheel. Who's going to get the DRS? More importantly, it's John. Field's getting close to Pagger as well. Is he going to be as close enough to make a move into turn one? Not quite. On the last lap now, it's all kicking off. James round the outside of Jonas, and he's got up to 6th. Great race so far from James. And Jonas is going to have DRS on him, but Phil has got DRS on Pagger in the meantime. Going down to turn 4, Pagger immediately goes defensive. Phil's trying for the lane move to the inside, he's hit him! Oh, dear. It's a disaster for Phil. He tried a Daniel Ricciardo-esque move, and the gap just wasn't there. And once again, I've got to say that was, from the looks of it at least, Phil tried a move that wasn't going to be there. And he's come off worse. And the one who this has all helped out is James. But in the meantime, he hasn't really been featured much this race. But he's going to take his second win in TGP1. Odems crosses the line to win in Interlagos. Matt has held off the second place. Silent Assassin comes home third. Good result for him. Pagger, he's been bumped, he's been bruised, he's been defensive, he's been attacking, and he finishes 4th. I think one of the drives of the day, coming home 4th. James in 5th, another one up there. Jonas will be a little bit disappointed with 6th. Paul McGuinness comes home 7th. Phil Bargewell will be 8th. Softcop and his Tara Rosso will be 9th, with his old-time sparring partner, and also someone who's been very quiet in this race, Jake, coming home in 10th after his earlier misdemeanors. Dom Smith is going to finish 11th on a lap down.
Carnage on the run down to turn 4. Carnage. Oh, Red Bull's just gone into the back of a Williams.
And Dom does indeed finish 11th. So that has been your race in Interlagos. It might not have been quite as interesting in the top 3, but the battle for 4th definitely gave us some entertainment. As we're waiting for the drivers to come out to the podium. There he is, Odems, with his second win. Fantastic. He will be delighted. We can get some live thoughts from Odems. Well done, your second win in TGP1 in 3 races. Well, it's been almost 100%. How do you feel?
Felt pretty good. Once, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Alright, good. Yeah, once Matt had his little spin and I set the fastest lap on the softs, I knew I was going to be able to just cruise to the end, and I did. So, happy with that.
No, fantastic. You did yourself proud there. Let's have a quick run down the top 10. We'll come back to you. So, Odems, the winner. Matt coming home in 2nd. Silent Assassin finished 3rd. Pago, great drive for him in 4th. James, also great drive in 5th. And we got Jonas 6th. Paul in 7th, who'll be disappointed with that. Phil Bargewell in 8th. Softcop in 9th. And Jake Davies in 10th. Dom Smith 11th and a lap down. And the rest did not finish. So, it's Odems, sorry, quickly back to you. Yeah, it couldn't have gone much better for you, could it? Do you think that you got the maximum out of the car this race?
Yeah, I think so. I set a 10.4 on the softs, like a few laps from the end, so I think I had a lot of pace in the car. I'm not sure whether Softcop would have been able to challenge me. He went down the inside a bit kind of desperately, so I think maybe he felt the same. So I'm not too sure what happened there, but yeah, I think I got the best out of the car today.
No, fantastic. And back at the lead of the championship now as well. Do you see yourself continuing this into Mexico? Is Mexico one of your strong tracks?
No, probably one of the weaker ones. But,
oh, okay. Well, we'll see how you get on. But that has been the Brazilian Grand Prix.
And we go to commentary with Mike Noon.
Thank you, handy Mexican man who follows me around in my luggage. Welcome to round number 4 of the TGP1 this season, of season 29, if you didn't know already. And you join us at the moment for a very overcast Mexico City. But the word in the commentary and in the paddock at the moment is that it's going to be a wet race. Our first one of the season. We've had 2 wet qualifying. We haven't had a wet race. But we've got a treat for you this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome along. It's round number 4, I said. And just to make things a little bit more dramatic before we get going, the championship leader and already 2-time winner this season has retired from qualifying with no lap. He got on the curb on the exit of the S's just before the end of sector 2, and he hit the wall, and he lost a front left tyre. So that's obviously disastrous for him. And as we stand at the moment, we have got 2-time champion Softy on provisional pole, with his nemesis from the last race, Paga, provisionally second. So a decent 0.3 of a second gap for the soft cop at the moment. And he's going to want to hope that he can keep that up for the time being as well. He's on an outlap at the moment, as some of the drivers are, as we gear up towards the end of the session. So a little bit about the recent history for TGP1 here in Mexico. In the PS4 era, the previous winners have been Will in the first round we had here, Phil, second time we visited, Softy, a previous winner, Jake, James and Jean. So we've never had a repeat winner at Mexico. Will we get our first one today? Of course, with the wet race, it could throw up any result. One man who's going to be gutted he can't make it today is Owen Quimby, as we know how good he is in the wet. Matt has just popped up into second, using some Softy's slipstream now down the main straight as Softy starts his flying lap. So a good time there from the Renault driver, who put in a fantastic performance, finished second last time out despite having a spin in the last sector. Who else have we got on laps at the moment? Jack Pearson, Phil Bargewell, all on laps, and Matt is on another one and using some of Softy's slipstream, which is going to be good in sector 1. But in sectors 2 and 3, he's going to want to be as far away from that Toro Rosso as possible. Softy drifting as he comes out of that tricky corner, a little bit on the too greedy on the gas as well, coming out of there as we head into the S's section. Soft cop now, this is where he's really going to come into his element. The tyres are going to be screaming for it all to end, and through sector 2, Softy's done a 28.6. No idea if that's good or not. Into the beautiful stadium section now. We've got the aerial shot as well, as Jake has popped up into third. That's more like it. Dismal first 3 rounds for him. He's going to want to get his championship retention back on track as soon as possible. Softy sets a 15.44, half a second quicker than anyone else, and that is a benchmark, and that's as quick as he's going. Jake has also called it a day in qualifying. That's what Matt has pitted, so that's going to be his best time. Let's watch Paga. He's just starting a lap at the moment. The man who, well, so some of the drivers caused a bit of controversy in round number 3, but up in the Commodorants and in the production studios at CS Sports, we all thought he drove fantastically. But what's he going to do in his... Oh, he's going to get this one and one more lap if he wants it. And through sector 1, he's done a 28.6. So is that good? I don't know. Now into this tricky double right-hander. You've got to be so careful on the power here, as this is what's going to set you up for the S's section. This quick left into the right, then immediately onto a left again, then another right, and then finally a left, just as the tyres want to give up. And through the second sector, he's done a 28.6, so he's matching Softy at the moment. Into the tricky stadium section. He's got a bit wide into the hairpin. That's going to lose him a lot of time. It's surprising how much time you lose at that corner. The tricky last corner where it's off camber. You've got to get on the power, but the car does not want to. And up to the line, and he hasn't improved. And that last sector, I fear, has really cost him. And he's going to be able to get in another lap, which he's going to want to do. Jonas has just ended sector 1 So we'll come back to him as the lap progresses. Martin is just finishing sector 1 as well. Phil Barswell's come around the last corner. What sort of lap is he going to do up to the line? He goes up to 5th on a 16.3. So not bad from the man from Middlesbrough. Paul McGuinness also on a lap. He's just gone through sector 1. Phil Barswell, that's his best he's going to do. Jack Pearson up to the line. Where's he going to go? He didn't improve. So Jack Pearson's going to have another go. James has called it a day. He's coming into the pits. Dom Smith, it hasn't come out at all. John, who has just come around the final corner, he's very wide, gets on the curb, and John Taylor might get another lap in if he's lucky. He will do, and he's going to need it. Though improving, he hasn't moved up the order at all. Martin goes up to 4th. He's moved up the order. What about Pagger? Coming into the stadium section where it all went wrong for him in the last lap. Neat and tidy through the left-hander. And this final tricky right. And then the run to the line. Where's he going to move? Is he going to go up from 5th at all? He goes 2nd. He joins Softy on the front row. And the Dutchman is where he needs to be as possible. Jonas is going for another lap. Chiapelli is just coming into the stadium section. Let's watch the Italian through these tricky corners. And then coming out the last corner now. Where's the Sauber driver going to go? Is he going to improve on 9th? Is he going to challenge Paul? Yes, he can. Moves up performance from Chiapelli. Jack Pearson up to the line. He can't improve on 10th. John Luke Taylor now coming into the tricky stadium section. He's the last driver we've got to run. No pressure, John. And then out of the final corner. Is he going to go any higher than P7? He's going to need to for his championship. And he goes up to 5th. So it's not bad, but it's definitely not brilliant from the man from Harlow, who a week ago was taking a pole position and on his way to a win. So a rundown then of the qualifying order. Softy on pole. Great result from him. 3 tenths ahead of Pagger, the Dutchman. Great drive from him. Matt is going to be 3rd. Jake in 4th. He's finally getting his season back on track. Jonas in 5th. Martin is 6th. Phil Barswell 7th. Chiapelli, great drive from him in 8th. Paul way down there in 9th. He's not getting his 20th pole position, is he? Jack Pearson rounding out the top 10. Odems, who binned it earlier on. James in 12th. And then Dom Smith rounding out the order. The information we're getting over the team radio at the moment is that it's still dry enough for slicks. So we'll see how this develops. Are we going to see a few drivers brave it and go on the intermediates for the start? I don't know. I don't have a weather forecast in front of me. But they're going to be sitting a little bit more uncomfortably in those cockpits than they are already, not quite knowing what is going on. So then your top 2. Softy, Pagger. We've got 1, 3, 4 lights, 5 lights in Mexico. And we're underway at the Mexico Grand Prix on the slick tyres in the wet conditions. And as we have the long run down to turn 1, Dom Smith hasn't got off to a start, but I tell you who's got a great start, that's Jake. He's already looking up the inside. It's 4 wide going into turn 1, and there's just as many people behind that are going to fancy their chances. But Jake late on the brakes, and they've all gone wide. Oh, and Softy's running to the back of Jake. Pagger's the only one to keep it on track. Oh, we've got 2 cars off in the background. That was Martin. That was a Taurus. Oh, we've got Matt that's round. It's carnage. At the front, Softcop's down to 5th. But Pagger has run away with it. And Jake is only a second and a half behind. But everyone's struggling behind for grip. And the braking is really tricky. We've got Paul up the inside. He's made his way up to 5th so far. James has got a 5-second stop-and-go penalty for ignoring a yellow flag. And it's all kicked off in the first couple of exchanges. And the man who's made the best start so far is Phil Bardwell, I'd say, up to the 3rd. Odems has had a great start, also up to 7th. But the big losers have been Matt, have been Martin, who we saw round the wrong way coming out of the exits of the first couple of corners. Matt has still got his front wing intact at least, unlike Martin. Jack Pearson somehow got away with no damage either. We're having a look back towards the front now. Jake, who we said needs to get his season going, had the dream start as Phil Bardwell runs right in the background, and the drivers are really struggling for grip. As you can see just how wide they're all going. Jonas all over the back of the man from Middlesbrough, making a little bit of contact, but I think they've come out scot-free so far, have they? Paga sets the fastest lap as he streaks away. Softcops coming to the pits. I think he did have damage. And we got also Paul coming into the pits. Chiapelli's up to 6th. Odems is already up to 5th. Jonas is hassling Phil Bardwell though. And is he going to have a look up the inside into turn 1? He's going to think about it. But Phil says, oh, yeah, no, you're not having any of that, mate. And things hopefully will start to calm down a little bit. Actually, no, they don't, because this has been brilliant so far. James has made his way up 5 positions as well, and is going to try and go up 6 at the expense of Chiapelli. And the Italian, I think, at the moment is going to have to concede to the Irishman. The Williams dives up the inside, but he's run well wide. Oh, disaster. And he's going to lose 2 more positions to Matt and Jack. It was looking so good for the Irishman, but he just outbreaks himself in these really, really tricky conditions as Phil Bardwell and Jonas rekindle their love for clearly changing each other's gears. That's not a euphemism as they come to the end of Sector 2 on the second lap, and things are not quietening down, and it's not quietening down for Phil's rear tyres as well. He's spinning them up at the exit of the S's. And I don't know what you guys are all thinking at the moment, but what a race we're going to be in store for, as Phil is still struggling. They're all struggling except for Odems, who is going to have a great run on the Red Bull driver coming out the last corner. He started 11th but is already hassling 4th. The championship leader has had a dream start. He said he was getting the maximum out of the car in Brazil, and he's going to want to get the maximum out of the car for sure now. And in the background we can see James trying to get back up as more places as possible. Jack Pearson's had to pit. Where's he going to come out in relation to Paul and Softy? Those are going to be his markers. And Odems tries a late move on from Phil and can't quite make it work, but he's going to keep his nose in there. And Phil's round. Oh, Phil Bardwell.
Oh,
he's
for
hit
fuck's sake.
Luca. It's those two again.
Fucking hell, Phil.
And Matt is
Every
up to
single
5th.
time.
James is going to move up as well. Luca's got damage. Phil has got away with it. And there's going to be a very angry Italian in that Sauber as he tries to keep his nose at the inside of Phil Bardwell. And there's going to be some words had between these two in a minute, because, as I said, this is the second time in 2 races that they've come to blows. And you'd say at the moment, I think, out there, looking at the gaps, that Jake has the upper hand on Paga. He's closing in on him sector by sector. The gap is just half a second now. Jake will be looking to be the only repeat winner of Mexico as it stands. Paga will want to make it 7 different drivers, winning drivers in 7 races. But they're going to have a long old slog. We've got a yellow flag further back. Who's that for? And it's Luca. He's lost the rest of his front wing. And that is a disaster for the Italian. And unfortunately gets a 3-second penalty in the meantime, as does Jack Pearson. I was missing that as Paga runs. But Jake had a great chance to take the left. Turn 4, he's round the outside. And is he going to make the move stick? Very tricky on the brakes. He locks up and Paga's still there, but Jake's going to have the inside line for the right-hander. And they're both... And Jake just runs him out of road. And the Welshman goes back into a position he was more comfortable with last season, but is one going to get back used to this feeling this season as he moves up into first place. Odems now is challenging Jonas. These two were first and second in the standings going into this race. We know Odems was first going into this one, or going to last race. We know Odems is first going into this one. Jonas having a bit of a poor last race in his opinion.
Jesus Christ.
Finishing down in 6th. And
I very nearly put that in the barrier there.
And Jonas, we hear screaming over the radio for more grip, and I can't promise you that, I'm afraid. Paga's still going to try and keep Jake interested, but Odems is definitely keeping Jonas busy. And coming down the main straight, he's surely going to have a chance going into turn 1. Very difficult braking zone. Martin's got a 3-second penalty down in 11th. And are we going to see a move and a change of position? DRS is open for the Haas driver, but I don't think he's close enough. Maybe a chance into turn 4. Oden's very late on the brakes, but somehow gets it stopped. And Paga's just 3 attempts off of Jake, and with DRS as well, he moves to the right-hand side of the track, but I think Jake has got him covered. Turns to Jonas and Odems. Jonas going a little bit defensive, but Odems is having a late move, And there's a little bit of contact. Jonas is off the track. He tries to keep his nose in there. There's more contact. And the Haas driver moves up into 3rd place. And Matt's going to be trying to get interested in his team very soon as well. And Paget now dropping to he's nearly put it in a wall is what he's done. But the gap is still just under a second, so he's going to keep the RS.
This car just wants to kill itself.
Jonas is really struggling, as we're hearing him over radio complaining of grip.
I know exactly what you mean.
Odems is also complaining of grip, so it's not easy for the drivers out there, and I think the rain is still coming down, but it's still not just wet enough for the intermediates, and one person has gambled, and that's Paul. We can have a bit of team
Softy
radio
and Martin.
now. Paul, Softy and Martin, I'm going to cut to before. Oh, sorry. Softy and Martin? What are you on about? Paget's pitted and has Matt.
Softy and Martin are on the inters. They pitted end of lap 1 with Paul, and Paget's just pitted for inters.
Paget's pitted for inters. Matt is pitted for super softs. So we've got Paget on the inters, Paul on the inters, Softy on the inters, and Martin on the inters. Matt has come out the pit and is going to have Paul for company. Matt has gone into the super softs, the only person to have pitted and done so, and Paul is on the inters. And as they're running into turn 1, Paul has got the outside line, got that bit extra grip, and got 6th place. But Martin's trying to keep his nose in, quite literally. And the battle reigns on. Are any of the other drivers going to get whiff of this potential quicker tyre? Matt's still keeping interested around the outside. He's got the inside for the tricky right-hander. Paul's run a bit wide. They're still going for it, side by side, racing between these two. It's frustrating for them, but it's brilliant for us. And Matt has somehow held on to 6th. And are we going to see any of the leaders? What's Jake going to do? Is he going to pit? No, he doesn't. He stays out. Odems, is he going to come in? He's running wide and doesn't pit. Jonas is going to pit.
He just lost me so much time, you actual fucking knob.
James also pits. So 3rd and 4th have chose to pit, but the top 2 are sticking with it for the time being. Where are they going to come out in relation to Paget? Well, I tell you what, Paget's already coming down the main straight. So he's very much clear. What about Jonas? Where's he going to come out in relation to Matt? He's well ahead of Matt because of the time he lost with Paul, and now Paul is under pressure from Softcop. The Toro Rosso driver, who started on pole, found himself in 5th after turn 1, is now going to have a look at Paul, and he's not quite, and DRS is still allowed, and he's going to have a look around the outside. Is he? Not quite. And for the time being, they stay as they are, but into the 2nd DRS straight. Jack Pearson gets another time penalty. Are we surprised? Softy again on the DRS, trying to look around the outside of Paul, switches the inside covered, and they remain as they were. Phil Bardwell is still on the softs and seems to be going. Paul's run wide and Softy's now at the inside.
Softy, what are you doing? I swear to fuck, I'm actually going to kick your head in, man.
And is through. And Paul is now dropped down to 8th. Disastrous.
I'm actually going to flip and kill him.
Paul, we're hearing on the team radio, is not happy at all with the Toro Rosso driver, who has also lost time to Phil, and Paul is dropping like a stone. As we've got Jake in the pits, and he's gone onto the supers as well, so he's not feeling that the intermediate tyre is the right tyre. Paget's come around the last corner now. Softy's got a penalty, and where is Paget going to come in relation to Jake? Jake is just getting on the gas now, but I think Paget's going to have done enough. He has. Oh, has he?
Has he?
Only just. Fantastic racing between these two now on 2 different tyres, but who's got the right call? Further back, Martin has pitted for the Inters as well.
Martin's already on
Phil
Inters.
has got ahead of Softy, and Jake has got a run on Paget.
Martin's pitted for super softs.
And he's already passed it. Martin is gone on the super soft, so he was in the Inters and now he's changed tack. So maybe the rain isn't as heavy as they all thought it was going to be. Meanwhile, in P1 is a very lonely Odems, but he's been used to that for most of the season, so I'm sure he's not that bored. Jack Pearson's got now a massive 9 seconds worth of penalties and has lost a position to Paul.
Where the hell's Jack come from? He spun! Jack spun!
Jack Pearson then, we saw...
He's just spun twice.
He's having a disaster as he spun multiple times and dropped to the back of the order. Sorry for the brief selection of mute. And Jack Pearson spun again. He's really struggling. He must have overheated his tyres by now. Pagger's dropped a second and a half behind Jake. Odems is in the pit and also gone into the super soft tyres. Where's he going to come out in relation to John as he's well clear of him? And they then got the two Renaults Linus third. And in the top 5, we have 2 different types of tyre. And I think, if I was, I'd be a little bit nervous if I was Pagger at the moment, because it doesn't quite seem wet enough for the Inters. It was a bold call that could have paid off beautifully, but at the moment it hasn't. And Jack Pearson, as we saw flash at the bottom of the screen there, has now retired. Pagger, interestingly, has just done a personal best for Sector 1. So it is really at this in-between stage of the tyres at the moment, which is making them all not really know what to do. We've got Phil and Softy rekindling their battle, also on 2 different types of tyre. Phil on the soft and Softy on the Inters. That was a mouthful and a half.
Oh, you're going to say Softy on the Phils.
I was close to Odems, I can't lie. So then, and we got off the hills coming through Sector 2. There honestly doesn't seem to be much difference between the tyre types at the moment. It's just so close as Phil nearly drops it. He's struggling. But he has been on those tyres for a little while now. Matt is just half a second off his teammate. Jake sets the fastest lap of the race. The battle is turning to the Renault drivers. And, well, we've got Jonas, who, after the week 1, was leading the championship. Matt, who's come in like a storm and got a 2nd place. Hopefully
James
there'll be no
O'Connor's
team orders
struggling
between
here.
these two. And Jonas protecting the inside line, kind of. Oh, now he is. And Matt moves to the outside. Are we going to see a change of position in 4th? Matt breaks late and just about holds on to it. All this is allowing Odems to scarper clear. Martin has given up as he binned it. Yeah, kind of. Jonas then trying to get past Matt but can't quite manage it. And they settle for 4th and 5th for the time being. And are we going to see a gap develop between the 2 of them? So the closest battle we now have on track is between Softy and Phil. As said, on these 2 different types of dry and wet tyre. And we'll see how this develops. In the meantime, we're going to go down and have a little chat with one of our favourite Scotsmen, Paul. Paul, how do you see this race has gone for you so far?
Dreadful, absolutely dreadful.
I'm really sorry, Paul. I know we've only just cut to you, but I'm going to have to cut away now because we heard briefly on the team radio from Odems that Pagger's made a mistake and Odems will not need a second invite to get past, and Jake is extending his lead at the front. Odems is all over the back of the Ferrari driver, and as they cross the line, the gap was just 3 tenths. And Odems with the DRS is comfortably past the Ferrari driver, who thought he might have made a wise call on the tyres, but at the moment is struggling. Chiapelli's got a 3-second penalty further back in 10th. And are we going to see Odems scarper off and try and put Jake under some pressure? The gap is 5.8 seconds. There is 8 laps to go. Well, that's less than a second a lap. That's doable, isn't it, Odems?
I'll give it a go.
Good lad. We'll see how that develops as we keep going through the order. And unfortunately, that was our closest battle on track, as Softy is dropping back from Phil. Now those Inters, I think, are starting to give up. So are we going to see Matt start to pile pressure on Pagger as well in a few laps' time? Are the Inters drivers going to have to pit? That would be awful for them. I mean, just think of the time they'd lose. Pagger would drop hugely back, would be the biggest loser of them all. Softy and Paul, I think, would only lose a couple of places. James, I think, has pitted again to go back onto the super soft. If I remember rightly, he was on the inters, was he? No.
Yeah.
He was on the inters. Phil one's wide. Just as we thought the inters were the worst tyre to build on, Phil proves us potentially wrong. As the battle continues between the Toro Rosso, Odems now sets the faster lap. He's got that gap down to 4.4 seconds. He's got it down by a second and a half in 2 sectors. He has got the bit between his teeth. After saying he thought this race was going to be a write-off, he could be about to go from 11th to 1st, and Jake is going to have to be the man that stops him. Meanwhile, Softy, is he going to be able to put a move up the inside
And Paul's
of
in the pits.
his good mate Phil Bargewell? And Paul's in the pits. He's coming off the inters for sure now. Softy's going to have a look up the inside of Phil. Is he? Oh, he's locked up. Oh, that's not what he wanted. Tyres that will already be struggling are going to now struggle even more. What happened to Phil? Phil's went wide.
Phil went off into the grass.
He has had to concede the place to the man from Nottingham, who moves up now to 6th place. And we've got Matt is closing in on Pagger, but not by a huge amount. The man who's making moves at the moment is Odems. Now just 3.9 seconds off the lead.
Pagger's off, he's crashed it, he's binned it. He's out. I
Pagger's
think.
off. Oh no!
Ooh.
Oh,
Safety
disaster!
car. Safety car, please.
Oh, he was running so well. We said, should he have pitted, he wouldn't have got a podium either way, as it turns out. But the Ferrari driver, that's race over. And that now does move Matt into the podium positions. So disaster there for the Ferrari driver, who had such a good race in Brazil and was racing so well in the opening 12 laps. It was unlucky 13 that cost him in the end. And the Dutchman waves goodbye to a potential podium. So now the man who's looking likely to stop the multiple winners in Mexico is Odems, who's got the gap down already to 3.5 seconds. Bearing in mind, this point 2 laps ago, we were saying the gap was 5.8. So, in 2 laps, he's got down 2 seconds. So, I'd say it's on, personally. And we'll see how the rest of this race unfolds. We've still got one driver out there on the intermediate tyres, which is Softy. Running in 5th place at the moment, doing a solid job, but his tyres are going to be knackered because he was one of the earliest drivers to pit for them, and the rain definitely is easing up by the looks of it out of my commentary box. Still there for sure, but maybe the slick tyres now are just able to cope with it a little bit better. As I said, everything seems to have calmed down a little bit now, although I said that last time and Pagger binned it. So we are now going to take time to go to one of our favourite Scotsmen. Paul, how would you say this race has gone for you so far? Down in 8th, that's not ideal. What happened?
Yeah, it's just the crossover between the 2 tyres. I just made the wrong decision going on to the intermediates. I had to pit again for the super softs, and yeah.
And what was the grip out there like on the inters? Because we're seeing some of the drivers, and like Pagger at the beginning of the stint, were doing really well, and Softy. And then as the stint went on, they just seemed to go off a little bit quicker than the drives. Was that right for you, would you say?
Yeah, no, they started off quite well as a firm wide, but the rear tyres were just destroyed after a couple of laps, so I had to go back onto the super softs.
Well, you're going to have a 6-time champion for company in a second if you keep on making those little mistakes. So keep your head in the game, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you a bit later on.
Cheers, mate.
So we watch now. The Haas driver has got the gap down to 2.6 already. Oh, shit. And he's nearly spun it as he's just about kept it. Great save, but that's cost him a 1.5 seconds minimum, and he's got it all to do again. And he lost 2.5 seconds. It's just come up on the delta there, and he's going to be kicking himself in the cockpit if he's got enough space to. And he's going to want to try and rekindle that time as soon as possible. It was looking like it was going to be on there, so he's going to be furious with himself for that little mistake. And for the rest of the field, the only closer battle is James and Paul, as we mentioned just a couple of seconds adrift. And we've got some a fantastic opportunity at the moment, as Jonas unfortunately gets a 3-second time penalty, to speak to Bernie Eccleston. He's on the line at the moment. Bernie, how do you see this race has gone so far?
Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. Very kind of you. I mean, I'm quite fascinated, to be honest. The rain's obviously spiced things up tonight, and it'd be good to see Jake win. I mean, it's been a while since, although he's the reigning champion, not really been on the form so far this season. But Odem's, I know, even though that spin, surely he's going to come back at him. One more chance on the last lap, I think. Matt's doing all right. It's good to see him on his debut night, getting another podium finish. Jonas, what's happening with Jonas? Is it just the weather, Jonas? I don't know why he's struggling so much.
Yeah, I'm just struggling with the grip. Just sliding everywhere, trying to can't really get the grip down in the faster corners. I've getting fresh with my teammate and just there, it's just dropping on the front end as coming out the corners. So it's just been keeping it on the track, as it were, in this bit. There's no one near.
So there you go, Mike. I mean,
there we go.
Jonas is struggling, but I think Odem's is looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, definitely, and even without your sprinkler system, we've had a bit of rain and things have spiced up a little bit. Do you hope the season that we've had so far has clearly been very exciting? Do you see this continuing?
Definitely. I mean, other names coming back later on the season, but Softy is yet to win a race this season. What's that about? He's done a fifth of the moment.
I know.
What's happened to
it's not one of the most dominant drivers we've seen in TGP1 history of recent, anyway. And although taking pole here, it's just not seemed up to it, has he, Dom?
Not really, no. I mean, he came close in, I think it was it Italy last week? But apart from that, it's been a pretty mediocre season for him. So hopefully he comes back good later on in the season. But at the moment, Odems is running the show.
Well, thank you for that incredible insight. I'm sure we'll see some fantastic things coming to TGP1 over the coming weeks. And it's been lovely speaking to you, man. Fantastic.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Jump is full.
Back to it then. As Dom said, things are definitely hotting up, and it's hotting up between James and Paul, particularly at the moment. The battle for 8th. The two veterans of TGP, one with 6 titles to his name, one not with 6 titles to his name, are going tooth and nail down to turn 1. James with the DRS is surely going to eat Paul for breakfast, although could save him for lunch. But for the time being, James... Paul's holding his own around the outside. Fair play to him. And the Williams driver is not having it easy, as Paul does run a little bit wide there. He's going to get DRS again. He's going to have to go to the outside. Paul's forcing him that side. He's passed him already, but it's in the braking zone where it's critical. Paul holds on, goes to the inside very early. James this time doesn't run off the track. Paul tries to keep it there on the outside. This is great battling between these two. James spins up the rear tyres, but just about holds it together for the time being, as Paul then gets a little bit wavy, and straight away the Williams pounces and is through into 8th place. Paul did all he could, but he knew after that mistake it was he was going to be flogging a dead horse, and we can't be doing that, as Paul and James both are all, as you can see, I was on board with them then, and they all seem like they're really struggling out there for grip. Despite the rain and blue sky mixture we're getting at the moment, it's definitely not easy for them.
How's Softy still on these inters?
And as Luca just said over team radio there, alluded to us, that Softy is still on the intermediate tyres, and they look very second hand. He's definitely not passing his MOT with those. He has a lock up into turn 4. And Paul is still 2 tenths off of James, so he could have another run at him here. Paul McGaines up the inside, and he get past James. Is James going to try and hold his own around the outside? Not quite. Yes, he is. And these two once again going wheel to wheel, providing the action. And I have to say, so far very clean and fair racing from the two of them. Paul's going to get DRS again. You see just how he's struggling to get on the power as Jake starts his final lap. Odem's just 2.3 off. Paul is not close enough to try at the inside, although James does run wide. Now he's going to try and get the whippity-wop, the flop spot, but doesn't quite manage it. And it looks like he's got a slightly damaged front wing as well, so that's not ideal for Paul. I don't know if he did that in contact with James, but for the time being, he's going to have to settle for 9th. But as we're watching a shot of Jake now, Odems is in the distance, but at the moment, unfortunately for Odems, too much in the distance. As Paul, we heard him on the team radio, making whatever noise that was, is now dropped to 1.6 seconds off of sparring partner James. But let's head back to the front then. He's got the gap down to 2 seconds, and that's how much he lost in his little spin. So you would have had to have said that Odems would have been all over the back of Jake at this point. Unfortunately, Chiapelli's got another penalty, but I think he's going to be safe in 7th. And that's one thing that this man at the front is not going to want to get now. You have
Very
to
close
say
between Phil and Softy.
it's very close between Phil and Softy, just 3/10 of a second. Softy's inters must have fallen off the cliff, but the confetti is flying in the Mexico colours as he comes through the stadium for the last time. He can see in his mirror the podium he's about to be standing on. Jake Davies is back to winning ways in TGP1. He wins in Mexico. Odems comes across the line second. Phil did get past Softy, unseen by us. Matt is going to get his second podium of the night. What a great debut night he's had in the Renault. Finishes third. Phil Bargewell gets a 5-second stop and go penalty for exceeding track limits, so Softy's going to jump him again. Jonas drifting around the last corner, comes home 4th. Not a bad result for him, although he would have wanted better. Phil Bargewell is going to finish on track at least in 5th, but after penalties applied, does drop to 6th. Oh no, he doesn't, because Softy had them as well. Chiapelli finishes 7th, and now we just wait for the lonely stragglers. James enters the stadium section, unfortunately with all the celebrations happening already. And the rain still coming down, but that's not dampening the Mexican spirit. As the Irishman comes out of the last corner to finish in 8th position. Good drive from him. Paul McGuinness comes home 9th and spins into the wall. And well, that's been your Mexico Grand Prix. It was a fascinating one, and definitely not a result we were all expecting. But it's nice to see, as Bernie pointed to us out, it's nice to see the reigning champion back to winning ways. And there he is, the Welshman, back on the top step. But shadowing him with driver of the day for sure is Odems. From 11th to 2nd, and what could have been if it wasn't for a spin. Vijay Mallya very happy with the performance. Thankfully not doing what he did a couple of seasons ago where Jamie took a surprise pole. We don't want to see that again. So there we are, the final result. Jake wins for Force India. Odems comes home 2nd. Matt in 3rd. Great drive from him. Jonas in 4th. Phil Bargewell comes home in the end 5th. Softy, awful race in his point of view for sure, in 6th. Chiapelli comes home 7th. Solid points for Sauber. James O'Connor in 8th. And Paul comes home in 9th. And then the non-finishers, we have Paga so close to a podium, still eludes him in 10th. Martin 11th. Then we had Jack in 12th and Dom at the back in 13th. That has been week 4 of TGP1. I hope you've enjoyed it just as much as we have. And we will see you next week for 2 races that I've forgotten what they are.
Monaco and Hungary.
Monaco and Hungary. There we go. Should have checked my calendar before finishing up. So we'll see you next week in Monaco, the Principality, and then ending up in Hungary. So this has been CS Sports. I've been Mike Noon. Thank you very much.